7:40, we're going to call the Economic Development Authority, the City Crystal, the meeting to order at February 18th at 7:40 p.m. And we'll call the meeting to order. Do I do this? Okay. We're going to do a roll call, please. John?
All right, Commissioner Adams?
Here.
Commissioner Banks? Commissioner Budiszewski?
Here.
Commissioner Deschler? Commissioner Kaiser?
Here.
Commissioner LaRoche?
Here.
Commissioner Parsons?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, John. Item number 3, approval of minutes. Would anyone like to make a motion? Jim?
I'll move approval of those minutes.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Olga?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any comments or discussion? Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And meetings are approved. Next, item 4, we'll consider approval of the 2020 work program. Staff had presented that a couple of weeks ago, and Community Development Director John Sutter is here to present.
Okay, thank you, President LaRoche, Commissioners. So this is the proposed 2020 work program. We're asking for your approval tonight. I'm not going to go through everything point by point. I'll try to spend about a minute on each page and try to be as quick about it as possible. For the public to understand some of the things that the EDA is working on and will be working on in 2020, we are going to try again to get Hennepin County funding for a facade improvement incentive program for some of the small business properties in our city. We did apply for this a couple of years ago, did not receive funding from the county. We're going to take another try at it. We also are going to see if we can find more private sources of funding for murals in our commercial districts. That seems to be something that can kind of brighten up an area and attract attention in a positive way. And there are some private foundations out there that do provide relatively small amounts of funding for murals, but murals are really not as expensive as you might think, and they are, in terms of the attention they attract, a good return on investment. But we would not be proposing to use EDA funds for this. We're also going to be developing a logo for our main commercial district centered around Bass Lake Road and West Broadway. We've settled on the name Crystal Town Center, and we are working on developing a logo for that. We had 8 planter boxes along Bass Lake Road last year. The idea here is we have portable planter boxes that our Public Works Department sets up in the spring and then takes down in the fall so they don't get bombed with road salt during the winter. This was so successful that we are going to do 12 more this year, 6 on Douglas Drive south of 36th and 6 on 42nd Avenue between Adair and Douglas. The deal would be the same as it was in 2019 with the Bass Lake Road planters, which we're gonna do those again, where the adjacent businesses have to agree to water and weed the flowers, and so that way we don't have to spend city staff time maintaining these flower planter boxes throughout the growing season. So, we do have funds available in our overall EDA budget for this work. Another new initiative that we started late last year that we're going to continue is to have Hennepin County Sentenced to Service come out once every 3 weeks and do kind of a comprehensive litter cleanup sweep through our main commercial districts and major streets. There's no way we can completely control litter, but this kind of regular every 3-week cleanup will help put a dent in it and stop it from accumulating. The idea is that once litter gets to the point where it is accumulating, it kind of sends a different message to people that it's okay to litter. And by keeping it under control, we hope to then partner with some of the business properties in the community and maybe even some citizens just to augment that effort with their own cleanup of just kind of keeping things more tidy than they have been in the past. We're also going to roll out 3 different marketing packages for Crystal, a residentially focused one, a commercial focused one, and one focused on potential development in Crystal. That last one is going to be part of an effort along the entire Bottineau corridor for all of the cities and the proposed light rail stations. And that has received a proposed name of Northwest Crossing for the Bottineau corridor. So this would be part of the Northwest Crossing marketing efforts. We're also going to continue our membership in the Open to Business program. This is a cooperative program between Hennepin County, pretty much all of the cities in Hennepin County, including Crystal, and a nonprofit organization that provides technical assistance at no cost to businesses, either to start up or expand, helping with things like how to write a loan application, how to prepare a business plan, that sort of thing. We're also going to do a little more intentional outreach and promotion of that to small businesses. We started doing a little of that late last year, and we're going to ramp that up in 2020. Then we are looking at how to deal with the remaining EDA real estate properties. And 482456 could be split into 2 single-family lots. We're going to have to wait a year to see the outcome of the monitoring well that's currently on the property, because there's an old gas station east of there. So we'll reevaluate that about a year from now. 5565 Vera Cruz is on tonight's EDA agenda, so we'll talk about that later, as is 4741 Welcome. And then there are a cluster of properties in the vicinity of 34th and Douglas. There's a lot to go over here, and I won't go into all of it now. The one thing I will say is that for the vacant site at the northwest corner of 34th and Douglas, we are currently in active discussions at a staff level with the developer that would like to do some type of development there, either an apartment building or townhomes. And once we have some kind of a concept plan that we can bring back, we'll have those discussions with you as the EDA board. And then if that project moves forward, it would have to go through the Planning Commission and City Council approval process before it could proceed. And then there are 3 other properties that we're basically just going to continue to hold, with one exception, and that is, or excuse me, 2 exceptions. 3556 Major could be built on, even though it's a very narrow lot, but that's the one lot we have not had any success at selling. We're just going to keep trying. Eventually, we think the market will get to the point where that lot will be worthwhile for someone to build on. And then 3409 June, we are going to attempt to sell to adjacent owner or owners because it really doesn't serve any purpose for our continued ownership. And then finally, we have been meeting with a number of developers who are very interested in that Crystal Town Center area that I mentioned earlier. This is the commercial districts surrounding the new renovated, revitalized Becker Park, which opens this year. And based on our conversations, we expect that there will be 1 or 2 development proposals to bring before you by the end of this year, and we will continue to keep you posted as those come together. And they, of course, would again require your review and also Planning Commission and City Council review and approval. So there would be a public process if these proposals start to move ahead. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any about the 2020 work program.
I have a question. John, and I'm sorry I couldn't make the last work session or the meeting that we were discussing this, but that area we talked about, the planters south of 36th, or north of 36th, sorry. It's like page 2 or so. And just a question on that. Is there any talk about improving the sidewalks, say in front of Milton's, or I'm not sure what it is across the street, but it's a bit slanted there.
Right, it's complicated there because there is a private sidewalk and a public sidewalk and a paved boulevard, and there might even be 2 paved boulevards. That's the asphalt strip that you see between the concrete sidewalks. There are no plans at this time to reconstruct those, as far as I know. Okay. That would probably be 100% city expense. The county generally doesn't participate in sidewalk unless it's part of a reconstruction project. Okay. But I think the concrete itself is in decent shape, but it's more just the side slope, I think, that you're getting at. Right. And that has to do with the grade between the building fronts and the curb of the roadway. And short of raising the roadway or reconstructing the roadway, there's probably no solution available at this time.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions? Comments? Okay. Well, that's pretty conclusive then. Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to approve? Olga?
I make a motion to approve the EDA 2020 work plan.
Thank you. And John?
I second that motion.
Thanks very much. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion approved. Next, we are going to have a closed session to determine the price of the sale of 5565 Vera Cruz Avenue North. We are presented information about the property, so we need a motion to close the meeting. Oh, John?
Madam President, before we go into closed session, there is some information that I probably should provide in the public setting.
Okay.
And then it would be up for the EDA to make that motion to go into closed session to discuss whether we do want to make an offer to sell it and what the price should be.
Okay.
Very quickly, there are kind of two options with this property. I won't go into the history of it all, but this was a blight removal situation at the southwest corner of Bass Lake Road and Vera Cruz Avenue. So our preferred option would be simply to sell the EDA property, which wraps around the south and east side of the property occupied by the Rose Bowl Floral Shop. Our property, as is Rose Bowl, they're both guided and zoned commercial. The owner of that property has expressed interest in purchasing the property, but obviously their first question was, how much does the EDA want for it? And that's one of the reasons we would have the closed session tonight. So our recommendation, when we get to that point, is for you to approve a motion to move into to close the meeting for that particular purpose, which is allowed by law. The alternate approach, if you decide you're not interested in that, or if you are, but you and the owner of Rose Bowl are not able to reach a mutually acceptable price, we could look at rearranging the lot lines to create a lot that could be sold for a single-family home. That's the alternate scenario in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. The idea is that by relinquishing an easement that 550556, that's the Rose Bowl property, has over the south and west portions of our lot. That's this tract D here. It's kind of this L-shaped portion of our property. By relinquishing that easement, in exchange getting this part of our property, which really would have more value to them probably than it does to us, would set up a single-family lot that could be built on. There are a couple of house plans that have been built in Crystal recently that would fit on that lot. But it would require front and rear setback variances as well as a lot depth variance. So for a variety of reasons, that's not our preferred option. Our recommendation is for you to close this meeting for the purpose of determining a price for which you would sell our property to the adjacent owner of 550556. So with that, in the working agenda, you have the language before you where you could make a motion, but it's important that the motion follows the verbiage in the working agenda about the statute that we are invoking and the property address and the purpose of closing the meeting. And then we would move back into open session after that discussion is concluded.
Okay. Very good. All right, we have a motion to close the meeting, and if you would like to, whoever chooses to, read the motion as worded, please.
I'm sorry, it's on page 2, towards the top of page 2 of your working agenda.
Okay.
Teresa's going to make a motion now.
I will make a motion to close, to close the meeting in accordance with Minnesota Statute 13D.05 subdivision 3C to determine the price of the sale of an EDA property at 5565 Vera Cruz Avenue North.
Thank you, Teresa. Do we have a second? John?
So moved.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. We are in closed session. Is now open. We are now going to item 6 on our agenda tonight, which is a closed session to determine whether to make a purchase offer for 4749 Welcome Avenue North. Staff is going to present information about the property, so we would need a motion to close.
Okay. So, Madam President, as with the last item, before we go into closed session, there is some factual information that I'll state during the public session, and then the EDA can discuss whether you wish to make an offer on this property and move into closed session to determine how much that offer should be. So 4749 Welcome Avenue North is a vacant foreclosed home. It's a 900 square foot, 2-bedroom, 1-bath home, has no basement. It's on a 60-foot wide lot, has an alley and a garage at the back, and it is directly north of a 80-foot wide property the EDA already owns at 4741 Welcome. Both the subject property and the EDA property are guided medium-density residential, which means that a hypothetical maximum number of units at 4749 would be 5, and the hypothetical maximum at 4741 would be 7 units. So the reason for the EDA to even consider purchasing 4749 would be to demolish it and combine it with our adjacent property that would allow the combined site to be sold for construction of up to a 12-unit residential property of some sort. Now, because the property of 4749 had gone through foreclosure, the seller has been trying to sell it through an online auction. Based on an auction that was completed about 2 weeks ago, we know that the seller did not accept the high bid of $137,500. We don't know who that bidder was. It wasn't us. We didn't make a bid, but whoever that bidder was, that apparently was not enough for the seller. And so they put it out for auction again, and as of tonight, there is some offer that's been made, but there's a counter offer going on. So we don't know what minimum price the foreclosing lender is requiring to sell this property, but we know it's somewhere more than $137,500. So the question for the EDA is the prospect of having a combined site for up to a 12-unit residential development, does that justify purchasing the property at 4749 Welcome to demolish it and help create that combined site at a price somewhere north of $137,500 plus demolition costs and everything else? So if you want us to make an offer, then you should close the meeting, again using the same verbiage in your working agenda as authorized by state law, and to discuss the amount. If you are not interested in making an offer, then no more action is required, and we will revisit what to do about our vacant lot at 4741 Welcome once we know who bought 4749 and what their plans are for that property. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Jim?
So we're past redemption period, is that what you're saying?
Correct. The redemption expired at the beginning of 2020.
Do we know what the sheriff's sale amount was?
I do not recall. I mean, we have a record of it. I just don't know it off the top of my head.
Do you remember it as being more than this offer amount, 137th or less?
I think it was probably more, but not a huge amount more. It was,
Like
I
around
guess I don't
150,
remember.
160?
Yeah, something like
That's kinda
that
what
sounds about right.
That's what I had in my head too. Okay.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I guess what I'm thinking is the bank is probably wanting to get every penny of that back, I'm guessing.
And depending on how much that was, they may not. You know, and some banks come to that realization sooner than others. It really depends on well, the current market, though, can maybe cause them to be more optimistic than they might have been a few years ago. And so that may be why they didn't accept the first auction and may, in the process, be of not accepting the second auction. We don't know that yet.
Well, banks aren't always smart. I mean, you know, the sheriff's sale, you know, they have a redemption period where the owner can try to sell it at that sheriff price amount, and if they're not able to do it, they oftentimes think, well, maybe the bank can, and there's a disconnect there, and I've seen it over and over. It seems like a lot of money for this property.
Okay. Any other questions or comments, or is it time to make a motion for a closed session?
Is there anybody wishing to make an offer? You are?
I would like to discuss it, yeah.
Okay. In closed session?
Yep.
Okay. John, would you like to make a motion?
I'll give it a shot here. Make a motion to close the meeting in accordance with Minnesota Statute 13D.05 subsection 3C to determine a purchase offer for property at 4749 Welcome Avenue North.
Okay, thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Therese, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The meeting is now closed. We are on to item number 7, which is other business. Does anyone have any other business to present? Not seen any heads nodding, so we will make a motion to adjourn. John,
So moved.
second? Give a second.
I'll second.
Therese, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? We are adjourned at